Welcome to Graveyard Keeper. This is my third stream, but big buts. Alright, I deleted the previous ones because there is a good reason. They were out of sync, so I kind of tried to stream on two places, Twitch and YouTube together. But what happened is I was using something called Restream, which makes those things go in two places at once, right? So I did that, but what happened is the streams keep on breaking on every couple of minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, and that's not good, isn't it? That's not good. So from now I will be streaming, I think, every day this time, around this time, half an hour up and down it can be, but except that this will be the time where I will always stream. All right, so let's get started with this. I was playing it a bit, but we are gonna get started on new game because I'm gonna keep the continued flow of this. So let's go and make a new save. All right. It's an ordinary day and our hero is heading home. Someone very important is waiting for him. Even in daily routine there is place for love. That's why he's scared, I think. Oh, that's so sweet. That's his wife. And he dies. But he doesn't. I wonder what happens, where is everything? A question, calm down, you may later on a page of your life, he says. Alright, a whole new chapter awaits you ahead. Sorry, bad English, sorry. But I need to go home. Can I go home? I don't know. There's always a way to get home. Is there? I wonder. Let me see. Your new home is graveyard. Sought by gods. Does that mean I'm dead? I question. It means you are a graveyard keeper now. I see. I have been isekai'd. I truly need to see the one that I love. But I shall listen to you, man in black and red. I shall listen. Pick up Gary, he'll help you sort everything out. Alright. Okay, Gary. Where is Gary? Strange vision. What is this nightmare? Okay, let's go find Gary. Need to find Gary. Okay, so this is our kitchen. We have seen before, but let's just start with now. And then this is our oven, and then over here this is the place to work on making my home cozy. Dreaming about this skull. So you were dreaming, my friend. All right, that's perfectly fine. Let's go outside. Let's just take a look at this surrounding. What do we have? We have a crafting table inside. We have some bushes. We have some place to store something. And some grass growing. Alright, looks fine. So, it is showing me to go to the forest, alright? And we shall go to the forest. Oh, we go to this place. And we shall dig up the place to get the skull. Holy shard, I'm skull. Are you Gary? Why would you think I'm Gary? Because someone told me. A man with a radar told me that I need to dig up Gary. Alright, I remember. I do you, mate. Do you? You Gary. That's nice. That's nice. I digged you up. First, let me ask you, who are you and where the shard are we? I don't know. I don't know. I must be dreaming. none of this can be true. Truly, you must be. My friend. You are the new graveyard keeper. It seems I am. My friend, it seems I am. I follow the skull. Wherever it goes, holds the answer. As I was told. Let's do what he says. Truly, could be dangerous. What is it? What may be that dangerous animal? We shall go and look. It shall be a donkey. It shall not be. Donkey of the world unite. That's English. Oh my, thank you very much, Mr. Donkey. Truly, truly astounding. It seems I can, sir. It seems I can. We shall converse. Who are you, Mr. Donkey? I am cheap labor. This cart is mine, so I have to work for the capitalist bastard who owns it. And I only earn 5 carrots a day. Truly a sad sight. This situation is deeply humiliating. Know where I come from, right, comrade? The bastard pretends that he doesn't understand anything I'm saying. Anyway, I need to get back to the town. You get rid of this one, and I'll bring you the next one. What a strange land this is. It truly is a strange land. And I was faced, and came the talking skull to my side to give me all this. Okay, I'll stop, let him talk. Hey, what are you staring at? Grab the juicy corpse while it's fresh. What for? I feel like we should take it to the morgue. I don't remember exactly, says the talking skull. I'm pretty sure it will be fun and might be profitable. Oh, I'm gonna pick. You know what? I'll stop doing voices. It's not consistent, alright? I'll try them later, but right now I want. So picking up E, taking it into E. Saw dispel switch like Homer. With body at the autopsy table. What's next? Oh yeah, slice some fresh from the corpse. Which will be good for stuff. Truly sounds fantastic. Ripping off flesh from people. Truly astounding. Maybe you are. Is it right that you don't know where you are? Is it right that I'm a skull? Nothing is right. You are truly right, my friend. So shut up and do what I tell you. I shall, Master Skull. Need to trade meat in the village for a beer. If you don't, then we'll appear to. Alright, Master. You shall give me the answers and I shall follow your lead. And now we shall slice tasty bit of flesh from this man. And we shall not, because that is a bad flesh. Or we shall. Alright, so out of character, but so red skulls means bad and white skulls means good. So everybody you want it to have as much white skull as possible. So right now let's just extract the flesh, the tasty flesh right out of his dead body. And we unlock some tasty food made out of straight up human meat. So delicious, I shall say. Create burgers, create sandwich, create baked meat straight out of human meat. That is disgusting, truly. The skull says. So what should I do with the corpse? The corpse says. The corpse says. You know what? I'll try to make it better next time. I'll try to make it, consistent. Right now it's not good. let's take it to the cemetery right now. Our broken down cemetery. Nobody is here to take care of it, is it? Here is the talking skull. Gary. Alright, so this is how you bury the person. Careful for the body, the grave, bury, decorate, warning, do not use goat skulls and upside down stage for decoration. I shall not, and we shall keep it here. I don't know where to make this. This is already like dying, so let's build a grave site, and this place looks nice. So let's do it here. Alright, let's go back and alright, that's good, that's good. Alright, let's just now make a hole. Okay, that's carried and into the corpse and bury the corpse. Actually, burial certificate. I remember money, alcohol. Alcohol. Sure used to like it a lot. Oh, sad. Here comes the bishop. He's your boss. But you know what? I'll just do this voice. This voice. Oh, I know. Ask him about the burial certificate. He shall know something. I'll better leave now. I'll be in the morgue waiting for my beer. Alright, Mr. Skull, you shall go. Oh dear me, I'm so tired. Why? Why do I have to come here every week? I don't know. To talk to me, I guess. Oh dear, the new keeper, whom we have been expecting him from 30 years. But he pretends there is nothing wrong. Who is this he? Hello, mister. Sorry to have you tell you this, but this graveyard. But your graveyard is a mess. I know that. There's no way I'm promoting you to cleric until you fix it. Fine by me, sir. Fine by me. Current location name, important location information, the graveyard quality, the church appeal, etc. So repair graveyards to increase the graveyard's overall quality. Probably need special resources to do that. So let's plug this one. Tonight your graveyard quality is at least 5. I'll be pleased to promote. Alright. Look like a spiritual leader and I'm a good judge of character. Alright. I'm good at everything. That's why I was chosen to represent his will. Yes, sir. Yes, master. Yes, boss. You are very, very great. Alright. Used to keep his stuff in the tank somewhere there. You should check it out. I'll come by again next week. In fact, I come here by every star. Maybe I'm not dreaming. Did I eat something? Oh, he's with what should I say? It's part of my duty, the unpleasant part. It's kind of an old tradition. Is here to represent his might and glory, so he is here for the god. As soon as body has been laid to rest, he can trade its burial certificate for money at the village tavern. Alright, so bishop's choice. How can I fix the graveyard? Just repair all the graves. It will take even an hour, but it's your job. Alright, I'll do that. Let's leave. I asked everything. You can always craft new ones. Alright. To unlock new items, you'll need to unlock the relevant technology. This costs tech points. Press tab for that. To open the technology tree, red points represent your handcrafting skills and your ability to work with materials. So it's just like crafting something. Green represents your knowledge about the nature of things and nature itself. So like plants and all is this one. Blue point represents your spiritual knowledge of the immaterial world. You'll get a first this at the study table in the church basement. Alright, so no use doing other things. You can collect a small piece of stone from stone rock or get a huge piece from a big one. Alright. Unlocked. Keep a stockpile, gather small for trees or gather sticks. You can collect sticks for dry bushes. Alright, so this is done. What I want next should be sawing, and in smithing I don't have really anything at all, so no smithing, just sawing right now. And I don't really need money right now. What I want to do is I want to clear the grave itself. So at the start, let's just do that one, and that's done. And let's do this one. I'm not gonna touch anything until everything out here is clear. La 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 la. I'm getting a lot of points. Alright, and let's remove all of this. Go back, go back, go back, go back, go back, go back. Alright, let's just remove this one. And let's remove this one. I think I can remove all of them. Yeah, this one. And finally this one. And I can take things from here. Right now I don't. Need anything, so I'll just put everything over here. I think that guy wants me there, but okay, so yeah, I can do sawing right now. So let's just do that one at first. I don't think I need food right now. Smithing, there's nothing. There's book, there's this one. We do need smithing, I think. I do think we need smithing, but not right now. Let's just use up all of our energy again. This gave us a lot of green points, so no red points from that. I don't know why. But let's go back. What does a person needs for him to be here? Oh, I think I have to like take the burial certificate. Alright, so let's just go and take it. No, let's take this one. Alright, it's not clear now. Everything that we need might not be there. I'll just end up clearing all of these buses first. So there's two buses. So that we get more renewable energy points, technology points, and this is done, and we have a lot less energy. Alright, now we should go to sleep. This seems like a right time. Let's just go. It's like been half at night. No, I'm not going there. I shall not listen to you, stupid tutorial. I shall listen to myself. Myself is the greatest. You shall not. Refreshed, and we have a ghost in our side. Who think you are? I'm the new graveyard keeper. Hooray, a keeper. Wow, I've been here for how long? I'm York. So lonely, poor me. It's too bad you're here. Huh? What? Wait, no, on the contrary, I'm very glad you're here. Man, you okay? Rather, isn't fellow buried here. We will really like to have a new neighbor instead. Alright. Something can help us with. Sure. Sorry. I'm coming back. I'm not entirely sure why I'm here. Actually, Gary only told me about bodies. Half-dead skull, that jealous bastard. He can only dream of what peaceful rest could be. Didn't you cry right now? Who am I kidding? It's terrible there, especially that guy down in the lower right corner grave. It's so mean. Oh, is he? Pick him up and throw it. I mean, sure. I guess that's part of my job. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Exhuman. Alright. No, let's just Exhuman that guy. It's still, it's still night. So let's just go and do what that idiot said. So I think I'll do the one which has one of the most good looking grapes. So we will go here and E grapes, Exhuman. To examine a body you need to remove the grapes, fence and grape store. So it's only giving me one, but I can repair them. But you know what? Fuck it. Fine. I have to remove a lot of things. So what it's telling me to do is remove this fellow over here. I think, yep. I mean, still he only has one bad one. Let's check this guy. This guy also has one bad. No, you know what? Fuck it. Fine. You are to be removed, sir. I have been ordered. You are to be removed, and removed you shall be. I thrown in the river that flows from this land. Is it this side? Yes, it is this side. So from what I have seen, if a body has red skull, you just throw it out because it's useless. So it can go and die. Doing here, Ghost asks me to get rid of this body. So what? Now you're just going to do everything here. It's not like he can do anything to you. He's dismembered. I can invite you to the quality but you have friend, but you have to get rid of the body, so burn it, alright? You go somewhere on the ground, so it's in the ground. Open and burn body. You need fire some wood, so you can make holes in the glass, alright? Just put it like this, the door from the country in case. Alright. So these are the characters that we have access to right now. And you know what? Now let's go and do what it says. So it's gonna become nighttime soon, which I'll just go and do what it says. Because going to a new place at daytime is better. Alright, so go to black field, and over here is a gate, top of something, beautiful trees, scenery, then comes the big farm, big past farm, and after that, now there comes the city, houses, everything comes here. Alright, and we are here. Space, it was. Alright. You wanna boo boo, you wanna be loved by me. Salha Duba Wawa. I don't know what this poem is saying. What do you want? I'm a graveyard keeper. I see.
Voilà, croissant, pigeon.
Come back to me when you have more faith in yourself. Okay, little lady.
Tom.
Sure. It's really to go away. No, not just anyone. Pride of the local church. Now, how primitive I will not put in certain circles. My name is sure, and then at first I need to write it in a catastropically out of paper and ink. Alright, maybe I could. What will you give me to? You notice the little things that people put these things together and you get a story. You may have some of it in a church, so you have to open the church right now. It's not used to manual labor, but a skillful man such as you. Of course. Leave east of the village. I had actively visited that house was going open one day. On this place, maybe in a couple lines about you. Thank you, I guess. Okay, fine. We need to talk to this man. I am Forodik. Alright. I'm from the graveyard. I woke up here today and things have been crazy since then. Oh, sorry, how could I have not recognized you? Good, this is good. Things are looking bright for our small village. What are you planning on opening the church? Fix your graveyard for us. Sure, it's been a while since anybody took care of it. Alright? So let's get down to business. How can I help you? All this burial certificate. Yes, he's right. I located the village according to the ancient contract. I have to trade it for money. What is the ancient contract? What do you mean? The village is going through hard times. You are short of money, but I'm sure your managers sending coins to the villages. Alright. Let's just trade. Enter to our local blacksmith. Sure, but we're gonna find in southeast corner. Alright. So we got that one, and we get this money, and we got the talks. Let's go and do the talks as soon as we can. And I think southeast should be from here to here. Alright. Let's just go to the blacksmith. He's the blacksmith. Like, hey, what are you staring at? Nothing's looking around. I think I'm the keeper of the. Dude, why do you keep saying it to everyone? The local blacksmith. My name is Bold. Alright, Mr. Bold. Give him the letter. Letter from you. Of course, 1 minute away and unfold it. All that from a name and this fine. You have to do everything that for the specific faster would never and also this road is putting what you can prepare it with a wood stone on the kill them, bring me the main alright, different essence here, some fancy crafting, get fighting, study fighting, they have as well, so fill your health and energy with food and special have to open it, sleeping levels to let's leave right now. I don't want anything to do with this side. And let's take his tools and let's plot this thing and we should get it so we don't hold it enough. So it's in the front, so you have to see. Okay, half a health, that's not good. Half a health and half a strength. Not strength, it's half a stamina. There, so we get 5 sunny things. Take these wet stones, suck tools, and they'll be assisted. Alright, we got some story. I don't think I want to sell him anything. Let's just try to sell him something. Alright, so you know what? No. Let's just go back and tell him about it. So we will finish everything that's in his town for now. Right now. Let's have work. And we do him. You know, you told me about how you help him. Yeah, it's on the house. Thank you. Inappropriate meat, all meat must be approved by the royal authority. The meat has a stamp. Actually, no. Without a stamp, my hands are tied. Where can I get the stamp? So the main box needs judge, but it will cost you a bundle. But there is another way. It will just have to deliver with us. Come closer. Alright. Shake in my ears. There is a guy called Snake. I think he has a fake stamp, but to be honest, I haven't seen him for a while. His charms, he comes here. I bet she can help you find Snake. So I have to. You know what? Let's leave this place. I'm not gonna ask anything over here. I need some money. I think we just need to like keep on worrying people every day, non-stop, every night, every day, every night. Spend the whole day in that place, like whole day, just doing 2 tasks, and our time is like finished. Oh, okay. And here, where you been? I went to the village. This place is so weird. It feels so real, and everybody will look at me. Still my thoughts. There is a cellar in a cottage. Some provisions. Okay, so I can gather a lot of things. Making bread from it and pies, cranberry pies. Oh, thank you. Those were the to do with beer sard. You know what? I need a beer. This will feel like one-sided relationship. Bring me beer and I'll tell lots of important stuff like how to get home. Alright? Fine. Asks about the small road. Yes. Do I look like a magical head? Sorry, it's not as I'll be waiting for the bear at my place. No bears, no answers. I did bring the bear, Mr. Talking Skull. You can pick it. It will soon be here. Yeah, here, dude. You can have your beer. Listen, guys, so here's some advice. Stop running around bragging here from another world. Please, but that did gentlemen. Oh, okay. Sure, you can use the portal on the Witch Hill. Portal, so there is a portal. We need to turn it on first. I have a little brain inside there. I'm not sure where the node it's coming from. Only everything I can remember. Maybe some books from the library can help you. Maybe. So I think the library is below my church. And my church is locked. Or something. It's not man used to steal books from libraries when he was a kid. Asks about the astrologer and cheerful, though I don't know him personally. And he has a big friend at the water house because they used to hang out every night. So we have to go there every night. Obviously through the church, and I think your wine cellar might be connected to the church cellar. And it got tunnels down there. That guy is still fishing. This sword, I have got no hands to show how big it was, but believe me, it was alright. You know what? I need to go. Sure. Forget to bring me some wine. Alright, I want you. I'll bring you your wine. Okay. We need to go to sleep. La 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 walk. Okay, no cellar today. Cellar business tomorrow. Not today, only tomorrow. I think we got back our good. It's much nicer without it. The graveyard. I'm so sad though. I'm so lonely and bad when I was alive. I should have been better. What do you mean? Dead, but we still deserve some respect. Its corpse is a soul vessel. It bears the marks of its life since bad and good deeds are that head. Even the best decoration can't make a graveyard peaceful place when it is full of red skulls. I'm sorry, don't. You better take good care of the graveyard. I'll be watching you. Alright. I'm so sad. Boo. So all human remains have their own unique spiritual attribute. A corpse gets its red skull or white skull from its body parts. You can change the corpse red skull by removing organs and embalming. Alright. The main way to increase your graveyard's reputation is to decorate graveyards with objects that have more decoration. Each line has both skull and decoration counts as one decoration. Lines that have a red skull never count, but you need to fill them with decorations to reach the white skull. So if I have more red skulls, then it's like useless to try to like put it. Alright, I see. Let's go down today. And this looks big. What's that sound? Alright, who's that person? Every night if I have to, but I'll get through eventually. Alright, you say so, big sir. Fortify the arts. I shall do that later, but not right now. Let's do this. Why can't I do this? Over here. Alright, let's just take some wheat. Let's take some more wheat. And I think this should also be wheat. And there is a recipe for simple tea. How do I do this? I think. Juice, baked apple, baked mushrooms. I see. All my tools are there. To go and get my tools. Let's go back. Let's try to get my tools. My tools are there. My tools. No. No. Let's take the tools, not the other thing. Wooden stick for starting fire. Sorry, let's also take this one. Now let's pick some tasty and eat. I think I was gonna do that. Today I was gonna eat foraging day, so like foraging like mushrooms and all, but I think I'll just clear this place first. So nails and flints. Nothing. There's some nails. And this will be nothing. Got this one, nails, flints. So it's just nails and flints or nothing else. And we got simple iron parts. And again simple iron parts. And nothing at all in this one. Remove this one, and yeah, so we have cleared a power place. And for clearing any of these two blockades, I need a wooden wedge and a wooden plank. So that is not something I can achieve right now. So what I will do is, I think I can use this. So yeah, I thought so. So I have 40, right? So let's just keep something here, food stuff, and I think there is inventory linked. Yep. And hand mix. So I don't have a hand mixer, so it's pretty much useless to me. Can't make a burger because I don't have any onions. And make this one. So let's just cut some meat into some fillets. Right, and now I don't know what to do. Those fillets. Right, I think let's look at cooking recipes. So baked apple, for that we need 5 apple. Baked mushroom, for that we need 5 mushrooms, and I can also do baked meat. So just have one. Oh, so it just happens automatically, we don't really have to do anything. And we go somewhere, and oh, we can forge till it is like done. No. Oh, a body is here. La 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 la. Alright, so it is 100%. Alright. So now I can enter, and I go over here. Also, what I want to do right now is, let's go to technology and let's try to remove soft parts. So what this will do is, if I do autopsy, I can try to remove blood or fat. I don't really need fat, I really need blood. So let's extract fat. So fat will remove oh shit, you know what, fine, I'll just throw this body because it's useless now. Yep, I will throw a body in the gutter straight away. No jokes. Alright, we don't play around, boy. Only play around when we need it. So one more mushroom, and let's go back. Let's get some more mushrooms. Alright, what the hell? Okay, now I think I can do it. Yes. So we have 3, we need 2 more to do it, but I don't think I'll get it. So I think I'll go and get sleep after I get my meat. Of course, my tasty human meat that I got from a dead corpse. Don't know how long the corpse was dead, but he is dead. Feels so refreshed. I too feel very refreshed, but it is half a day, half night. I don't know exactly what this time is, but it is everything half. Why is everything huffing? Use nodes. Alright, let's just dig it up. Take these things. They produce like 5 sticks, I guess. I don't know. Alright, so let's dig this one. And then this one. Also, I will be uploading the VODs in my YouTube channel, so be sure to check out if you guys wanna, watch the VODs. Let's get some stones. Alright, maybe we'll need stones. Stones. I don't. Oh, this is not there. Let's go and get it. Need some stone for our energy. We don't have to keep on sleeping midnight. Midnight sleep, still have human energy, right? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And let's take this one. And let's take this one. Let's take some berries. Oh no, I don't want to cut anything. I just want to take some berries, and that should be good. I can just eat berries whenever I want. Yeah, let me just see. So now I want to do it. Yeah. So let me just go back to. If I do this, oh, I still need 25, so yeah, I have to do that one. I can do simple graveyard, but I think that's necessarily something I want to do right now. I think it's just right now. No stoneworks. Let's do this one first, because next time I can get this thing. Not this one. Which one was it? Oh, book writing, theology. Yeah, theology. I get this one. So this one, pay up those. You can get it. It's not an issue. Not first grab. I just have our inventory. I can just use it. Give me 5. Alright. And I also got some stones. So I can walk the whole night if I. Let's keep this thing here, this thing here, this thing here, this thing here, and this thing here. I can't make this, but I can make. Oh, I need 5 of those, which gives me 3 of these. That's fine, I think. Let's try to stock up on things. Alright, so this is done. Let's go back and let's get this one done. Alright, that's perfectly fine. And this one too. We have a lot of food, so there's no need for us to worry. Well, how about we go and we like try to clean up our, also we can like destroy logs and all that too should give us those things. Start working once the church opens again. Enter, the door is locked. This only gives me a red, I think. No, it only gives me green. What I need is red right now. No, I can't delete these things. Fine by me. Let's go and let's try to disassemble some trees. I have the body. I was thinking of disposing the body because I don't need it. So let's just take the body and let's throw it in the river. Right now, let's go here. This looks like something I might want later on. Right now, we don't really want any bad bodies. Alright, let's throw it out. And this seems like something that I could do over here. Alright, so there's a workshop. There is something called build. Can build, remove. There's nothing to remove, dude. Alright. Alright, so let's break this tree right now. But we need tree, so we're gonna build workshops. And we put let's tree something. and we're using blueprint text to access building interface and start building. Alright, so what do we need? We need a saw hose. Alright, so we need a saw hose. First we shall get the saw hose. Okay, the sticks are like literally right here, so I can just do this. I can get those. Alright. Alright, so I have enough food in my inventory to eat, so oh, I think I finished it. Alright, might need that sometime later, so I won't use it. Sawhorse. So I think I shall start from here. So like, or do I like, I can't rotate it or something? Can't do R. Alright, so I can't rotate it, fine. Instead of there, you know what, it should be good. No, that will leave one space. So I think what I'll do is I'll put it right here. Alright, so now it won't like, you know, be wasting space. We can just come straight from that side and we will have this thing ready. Just need some pallets. Pallet is done, and when pallet is done, you can just go over here. Ooh, I need one more pallet, so one more tree. Alright, that's perfectly fine. Oh, I can't do those strap trees. Alright, so let's just put this tree. Let's take this trunk out. And let's go. Put. Let's go over here. And let's craft one more of this. Alright, so we got everything that we need. Let's put everything else in here. Alright, so even this stone and these two things. And let's build a chopping spot for us. See, exact use of space, and it even like looks nice. It fits the, you know, wooden area 5. Alright, so we can make a wooden wedge, which we need. So let's just make it. It will be the first thing we make, and let's just keep it until we need it. Right. So let's just keep this thing and keep some storage. Alright, I don't know what that story thing does, but alright, it is perfectly fine. And what else do we do? I don't know, maybe like stockpile on things. I do have this thing, I'll just like, you know, consume it. No, it's not much, but it's fine. Let's just use all of it. And done. I have some strength to take out some trees. Right, let's go and take out some trees. Like this one. And don't forget the stump. Alright. Here. Let's take this thing back. Let's put it here and two more. We can do two more. Okay. Oh, we can cut this one. I don't know why I can't cut the other one. And it's done. And we get 2 stumps. That's perfectly fine. And we have this thing. Go on top of this, and we can just push train. And we have some slide of wood crust. And maybe cut one more. I don't really want to just and let's break this one. Let's just break this one, and we have that also happens today. Inquisitor. I've seen the Inquisitor. Right, here go to the part of the Rosard, he'll kill me, or even worse. Maybe I can find something on the hill that will help me get. Alright, and he just goes poof. Nincompoop. Yeah, that's what I like to say. Alright, I'm just walking, Inquisitor's Joy, and there he is, Mensior. Alright, let's just watch it. Is that me? Yeah, that's me. I knew it. You know the bishop, I'm the graveyard keeper. Feel that you're telling the truth. Would you join me at the witch burning ceremony? Of course! You know, I've always wanted to a graveyard certificate. Strongly suggest. Yeah, the Great Inquisitor, I protect the one true faith and humanity. The ship of the dead is already overloaded and there is new one stuck in the ship. What is the ship of the dead? Graveyard opening again in the suspicious time. Dark cult is rising, I can feel it. Just anger rises with it. The soul, you have burned thousands of witches and heretics for 30 years. It's only the beginning. Interesting. Very interesting. Light the fire. Yes, burn the witch. Burn the witch. Yes, these. Yep. They refuse to lay in their graves when they're dead. Interesting. Pray to be his friend. On my trust and belief product the Inquisitor, you will have to show your good words. Then the stars, everything indeed on today's the day of fright, not a day of spreading with mine and details. Yes, other I like to come here with no other place where I feel my holy walks for people. So he's just a sadist that likes to kill people. I see. And let's just go back, I guess. Let's see if there is something harvestable. If there is, I'll take that. If there is not, I'll go back, I guess. Okay, what's here? This seems like kind of like a farm. And here it's something scary. And if we go here, there is some mountains. And over here seems to be a burned house. That's interesting. There's burnt oil and here's nothing. I don't know, chase things around the all mysterious. This is so outside, it's the same place. Let's leave this place and go to our own place. You know, small graveyard where we live. No, hello. Alright, so what do we do now? We barely have enough energy and there are no more bodies, I guess. Yeah, really no more bodies. I don't really want bodies right now. I do want them, yes, I don't know what I'm saying, but you can't remove the bodies because yeah. So you know what? I think I'm gonna build something. This building is good, so let's just go over there. Alright, so let's do this one, right? Let's fix this one. This will consume some of my energy. Let's fix this one. Alright, that's better. And wooden one, which is the best one to all this. So we have to cross. Cross. Okay, so gravestone. This was this one. Alright, let me just see the better. Right, so that goes to 0, so we are in minus 15. Now we just need to fix some and like get repair kits to fix others. And I think we can get the extermination to like remove all the bad bodies and replace them with like good bodies which have like better, you know. Which had some better stats, alright, some better skulls. Let's just go to sleep for now, and then we can like when we wake up we can like go and do other things. Okay, save. I feel so refreshed, I truly do. And now what do we do right now? Build. We already built those. I don't need any of those. So if I go over here, we go to technologies. I think we unlock this one. And smithing and building. I can't do this one. Create stone toolkit. I already have this one. I don't know what else to do over here. No cooking, no building, there's no smelting. I think I need to talk with that guy first. You know what? Let's just plant things first. Alright. Let's just go and talk to... You know what? I need some burial certificates first. So until that horse comes, I am gonna be... And that place looks like nice for... Nice place for, you know, for burying someone. I need another burial certificate because then we can buy the teleport stone and with the teleport stone, somewhere like here, don't know where, like, and if I don't know, I'll just leave the place and I'll do some other things. Where's the donkey, dude? I'm waiting for the donkey. Just remove this stuff. Alright, donkey's done. Let's just go back. Also, the person who's like watching, if you can say hi, I'll really appreciate it. And then I'm sure if it's just me with my screen on the side, it's only like one view, and if it's like actual person with me, I don't know exactly who this is. Right, so we can get a lot of response. Alright, so that's before we should not be needing that for some time. Get some things. You know what, I'll go, fine, I'll go there. I'll go to the tavern, I'll sell some things, and I'll get the money, fine. Wait, did I have burial certificate? Okay, let's just see. I don't have any burial certificate. That's fine, I guess. I didn't bury anyone, so that makes sense, doesn't it? Let's go fast. It's getting nighttime. Oh, the donkey. Okay, Mr. Donkey, let's go together. I'll just bury that person, get the money, and I'll come to the Dead Horse Tavern, get our teleporter, and teleport to this place. So, Mr. Donkey, are you gonna be coming, or do I have to wait for you? Can you sing again? Let's get some berries, food source, collect, pick our food, let's get some mushrooms until he comes, some more mushrooms, and some more mushrooms. I have mushrooms. Donkey also here, follow the donkey, and until he comes, you can like remove the tree stump. Alright, we get to the time. Let's donkey just drop body fast, and we can knock it right now, and let's put the body inside fast. In that time, I'm gonna go ahead and go sleep. I want to go and sleep, Sleep is my name, sleeping is my name, and done. Put the body in certificate. Now let's just run back to sit. It is like nice, it's fine. It's already got now, it's fine. Can keep walking. The guard in the dark. Alright, Mr. Guard. That's very nice of you. There's just these two people. Now let's trade, sir. I have some burial certificate that I would like to trade for my 150, and I got 3 of those. We need 2 for teleport stone, and we just got 1. This thing takes 80. All right, no way I'm like getting there. Okay, let's talk to her for a second. You have been told. Oh, yeah. Alright, but we're mad. I'm Miss Jane, Hoderic's wife. Nice to meet you. Have few questions about. Oh, you better talk with my husband. He's in charge here. Not only the people, but he's also elected the head of the village. Does like to talk, but all I can do is tell you some recipes. Alright, let's see your recipe. I want to trade with you, miss. Alright. Let's not talk, shall we? Let's leave this place. I think if I go here, I can come to that place next time. I think this is where the lighthouse is. If I go like straight from here. So those lights, they are for Halloween, if I'm guessing right. So if I just go straight, there's no, it's not straight. Alright. So if I go from this side, it's circle, right? It's something over there, but I don't want to do anything. So let's just go over here, and this seems to be the lighthouse. You know what? I'm not even gonna touch it. Just found the lighthouse. That's good. Alright, I can't even take the apples, dude. What the hell? Not fair. Okay, choose the teleport stone. Alright, so use it to get to our house and go to sleep right now. We need to wake up and we need to make up some things. We need to get to 5 so that we can open that place. We have enough logs for logging things. Now how do I, craft things? Let's go to technologies, and it's beekeeping, smelting. I don't think I can smelt anything. Oh, I think I know. I know how to do it. Alright, so use this and dead horse, because now it's daytime, so everything will be up. And here, this is where we go to meet the blacksmith, and he isn't even up. Alright, let's just explore the village area, shall we? Alright, so this is the village area. Alright, and if we go over here, there seems to be berries growing, which I can't collect for some unknown reason. I can collect these berries, which I can't get those berries. That's it. I can't get any of these things. Don't have mine. So let's try these things again. I'll get them. Hey baby! And the chickens. And the eggs. Eggs. All fresh eggs. I can trade this for 20, 10 for chicken eggs. I'm not interested in any of those. I did see something over here that I was like interested with. Hey, what is this guy? Who are you, sir? You are Dig. Alright, Dig. Alright, alright. Okay. This guy seems like my type. No, I'll hang out with Six Jill because have fun. He wants to be happy, that is all we all want our lives. Don't we? Don't you want to be happy? So it is clearly the sun is right above the house. So if you yeah, I got now. Now same fine way to go. Alright. Alright, we got phones, that's what we needed. Alright, so now let me fully charge fully. And get it. We go to our future house. We exit. And let's see what we need. To build the furnace. We need some more flint. Yes, flits. Alright, so let's make some flits. Alright, so this one. Alright, so we got everything. Let's keep it in our trunk. Alright, so 9 of those. Stay over there. Okay, I need some more stones. Fine by me. 6 of 14. 6 and this would be 7. That should be 2, right? That should be 8, 8, 7, 8, 9. And this should be 10. No, what's wrong here? 10, 11, 12. That should be 12. Let's look at this one. 12 and 13 and 14. No, not 10. Yes, 13. New body, 14. And let's go and keep the body in fast so that it doesn't decay. It starts decaying. And stick this thing up. This side. Here we will do its work later. Right now we need the furnace, and if we have that body over there, the donkey doesn't bring more porridge to us. And we 10, just have 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, 4 more. We can do it, Mike. We can do it. Let's see how much this gives us. Alright. 11, 12, and 2 more. Okay, that should be enough. Why is this red just falling? You do something stupid. Stupid. You stupid. You are stupid. Alright, we did everything. Just need to make the furnace so we can put ores over there. Just hit it some more time and it will magically build itself. Right, so right now, okay, so we can't really fuel it right now. I ain't got no ingots. I will get them, but next morning, not right now. So we need one more perk to do what we need, and that is go out of here It's like super dark, but that's perfectly fine. Yes, that's what we want. And we got technologies, and it should be a smithing. So let's unlock this thing, and we also need to unlock stone workings first, so that we can fix the old grapes a little. Stone packets, those packets are good. Alright, so now I can't really do anything. So let's go and like prepare some of the grapes so that they do actually like give me some things. Alright, so one is good looking already. I fixed that one, I think. Let's take the 4 from here. Alright, so I think it was this one, right? I fixed this one. And let's fix the grave of this one. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. This one is not even worth the hassle, dude. Can I like exhumate this one? Exhumate permission, it's like 0, so it's like useless, I guess. Oh, but what if like we can just remove this thing? What if we like remove this thing? And we can like put it in somewhere like good. And E. Let's take this one out and let's like remove this one. Let's put this one in this thing because this has one that and one this. You know what? Fuck, fine. We need one more body and we will use the gravesite here. We'll make this body fine. So no more red skulls here. So let's just get this thing like ready at least. Alright, so we're minus 18. Will be perfectly fine. Alright, no worries. We will be fine. Let's just go inside of here first. Let's cut this person into pieces. Let's take their blood. Yes. And let's extract the blood. And yep, they have a good body. And let's just go and take this one. Now because they have a good body, that means that it will start with 0. It won't be like -2 like all of those are. Intercept. Alright, and we will put a gravestone in the grave. This will add 2. Done. Grave and grave fence. This will add 1, which will complete this thing. So we have -13 plus 3 plus 3. Alright, so that's how you do it. Make the hopes good. You take it from that side and you fix them over there. Alright. So we need to take these 2 logs. Alright, let's just do this. Let's do this. Okay. Let's just go over this side and let's slide it over here. Okay. Just go with me. Let's put this here. Put this thing. And let's put it here. Now we need to build a wooden anvil, which we can. And it just requires this much. I don't know if I want to build it over here or not. I don't know. It's like leaving one space like everywhere. This is why I don't want to do it. Alright, what do we do in that? We create things from ores. Alright, so where are the ores? Ores should be here. Right, so there are no more slimes right now. Let's just mine the ore while there are no slimes. Because like trust me, there comes slimes. If there is no slimes, that means it's good, you know? Then you can just mine 6 easily. That'll be disturbed by anything. They might come sometime, but right now they are not coming. It's good. Let me just try this thing. We are getting a lot of iron. Alright. Let's just clear this whole vein in one go. Okay, there is more. And we ain't stopping until we finish chopping off every part of this. Understood? Slimes might start coming, so let's just finish this one. And we'll head back home. We have like a bit too much, I don't know. This area is cleared of its. Oh shit. Oh shit, I have to run. So there are enemies at night. I see. Thank god they didn't like hit me too much. So I have 44. It's Q5, so it will be 125, which we don't have. This gives me 90, so let's try making that one. You know what? I think we need firewood. So for firewood we need 1 wooden pallet. So we have none wooden pallet or something. Okay, so we really do have none. Alright, let's just push everything over there. Okay, let's make some wooden pallets. That will be everything that we might need. And let's put this wooden pallet, this thing, firewood here, firewood and this one. Just chop some things out. Fear not, little child, we have 12 of those. Alright. So 10. That should be enough for this thing. So 10 upon 10. That's 90. That's 110. We can do this thing. We can cook one of these, and if we go inside, also cook one of these things. So next morning when I wake up, this thing should be done. Let's just go to sleep. Let's wake up at proper morning. Alright, so our food is cooked and enjoy our dungeon. Our iron is cooking. It's not fully cooked, but it is cooking. La. Oh, so what can we do? Let's go to the tab and technologies. First we shall get this one off, then stonework. Right, I don't know what this didn't like let me do. Let me see buildings. What's beside this one? Only then can we work on it. carpenter's workbench. Only then we can repair the wooden structures, but I don't want to repair them. Want to make them myself, which it won't let me do. That's fine. Alright, let's just see. Just want that thing to be completed, bro. You know what, let's just cut some trees before it like finishes its work. Hello, 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 hello. Here. And remove the stump from it. 1, 2, need it fix. Alright. I shall fix it. Fix it, Felix. And this has been gone. Craft. Let's just work it out. Alright, let's service it new. Alright. Okay, no, let's take one more. It really locked me. Only one piece. And I need this. Let's say this one first. Measure it and try to do it. And clear this thing. And let's turn on. Let's clear this one too. And put one more. I think it's good. And off. Okay, trade off. Let me actually do also get some baby clean. So tab, I can work on something in here. Really. I want to do lock. What can I do that? Let's not check. Alright, so what did we need? We can make a lot of things. Right. But what's here? Let me do like a like this. Let's say there's some employees on it. There's gonna be any this should be this right. This is gonna do this. So let's do it. Alright. So that's these flyers. That's 2 more. That's all, and then I find all. So let's the 17 small. And then let's try remove the fat. Try to remove the fat. Now. Alright, let's go. Let's try the fat. Alright. Let's take, you know what, no, let's not take the body. Let's put it here. First order of width. Come out. You know what, I think I need to like remove it from that guy so that we can like maximize. one goes here and one. Oh, so one is left. So I can already, rebook every place so that it's easier for me to know where to put things, and later I can put things in it. Just put this here, put one here, put one here, and that should be enough for one time. Let's go to this one, right? So that's -2. It should be 0 when I bring that guy over. Let's take his body. Alright, next one I want to try one thing. So if I also remove the blood, will this give me extra skulls? I'm gonna try that. Okay, we got some more money. Let's just go and take this thing. Let's remove this from you. Give it to that person. So he had 0, so it can be alright, so let's just put it here. Alright, so that's done, and we should also go to sleep. There are some of them over there, but I don't want to use them. What time is it? Let me just see the time. Yep, same bro, same. It's been near 1 hour 30 minutes. I don't know if I should do 2-hour stream, because right now I don't have really anything. Next day I'm thinking of doing another game, so it will be kind of a daily thing. Okay, so I'm not gonna do that. What we need to do is we need to make the cellar. So for the cellar, what do we need? Let's go and look. So we just need 2 pieces of stone and 4 simple iron. So 2 stone and 4 iron. So no, and side of my floor fix it. From the other side. So what does this require me? This requires the same exact thing, but right now what I need is a fuel source. So let's make some fuel. That will not be from here. That's going to be from here. Okay, so let's just make firewood and let's get another there. Iron and now let's go this and what do is just going to put them in my chest, I guess. Let's put this three things here. Tab, characters, tab 1. Alright, I finished eating those. I don't have any eggs to make this thing. I don't have any baked mushrooms. I don't have anything. I'm poor dude with oh, I can go and like make that guy pay me money. Let's go to the horse. I can just sell things. Let's just trade 1, 2. He has like 17, I think. Okay. So beer, I don't have anything to give to this guy. I don't really want to buy another one. So no beef slices, no nothing like this. 80, 35, 35, 30, 36. I don't want to buy anything. So we do that. Fuck you. Okay, let's use this and let's go to our own house. Our iron will be, it's not ready. Alright, so what do we do right now? I don't know. Let's try to open up more of the map, because if you didn't know, there is a map. It's all covered. So we unlocked the witch hill. This is the burned house. We cannot go further than that. And then there is a place that might want to use. That is for farming, and that is laid out for breed. And there's some people say so over here. So we unlock that. Pretty fun. It's pretty close. Oh, you can go that side. Oh, it's not that you can't. You can. There is only a way to that, but we can't see now. Hello, hello. Oh, I am running away from it. I ain't coming here at night time or any time. Alright, so what shall we do till that time comes? So our iron is ready. So we just need simple iron parts, I think. Let's make this one. Alright, that's now done. What we shall do is we shall go and let's finish that part until I close the stream, because it's kind of being the time for it to close the stream. Okay, so we go this side. Not gonna try to fix that one. Alright, so let's just fix the hats. And now the body can just slide downstairs from there. Second, I don't know how this thing like works, the geometry of this house or whatever. Like, I think I know what I'm gonna do next day. We'll do farming. Yay! Farmers. We are farmers now, boy. Right. Saved, and now what we do is we will just go and look at this farm. And then we can go and talk with the person who has it. Here is the tavern owner. Who did the government go? Alright, so let's just leave. And I can get that place. And so to the course. And we are here. It shall be that woman's turn today. I don't know who you are. I didn't want to talk to you, bro. I found an abandoned garden. Oh, can't find it. Right, empty garden bed. Thank you. It's his property. Take the property depends on the approval, but it will find if this promise to settle this. Sure, I'll talk with him. Thank you very much. With the locals, every upside, he owns the barn. Don't have anything to trade with you, so he comes at that day. Alright, and now time to move to the house. Sweet home. Let's leave the sweet home. Let's walk straight. And now the sweet home will have a lot of things. Because we are gonna be farmers too. Now I don't know how to do this thing. Alright. So just one for now. Just one. I don't know what to do right now. I think I'm doing it right. I don't have a seed for anything. I think I can buy seeds somewhere. Okay, we still have a lot of time in the day, so let's go and buy some seeds. We have 3 copper coins. So that should be 300. Oh, we have 3 silver coins. That should be 300 copper coins. So I saw some place over here that I could buy something. So let's go up at first. And it's fight time. This guy only has that. I don't need your things. I already have them in my house. Let's go this side. And it's broken up house. I don't know what to talk with this guy.
Tiro.
Oh, that's sad. No, it's fine to talk with him. Alright, it's good. Alright, so seeds. Which seed do we need? Crafted, I don't know. We don't need carrots. I think I want carrots. Let's go with one of those. Alright, let's try farming for one. We still have some money. Alright, it's not like we don't have any. Let's just go home and first and then we will go back to that place. Oh no, we will go to our farm and we will pick a seed. Here, this. Oh, and it's 4 of those. I see, I see. Oh, hello donkey. We left it inside the crematorium, right? Now it will not rot in the outer world. It will be preserved in this, like catacomb. It's still at 99% though. La 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 la. And yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap up today's video. So it's like nearly been like 2 hours. I don't know if like person is really watching or if this is just me, but yeah, it looks like everything is going fine and everything is going perfectly. One of them, alright. And that was my voice. Okay, listening to I started looking at it for 2 hours, right? Yeah, that's the meat served with studio. I don't use it much back on home. This is fine, this is the way. Alright, so mushroom to listening to watch it. Let's just leave there at the end. Yep. Alright, so let's farm some mushrooms. And then get back to work, I guess. So, mushrooms are that side, not this side. And let's get some mushrooms. Yeah, this body, I wanted to test something. Alright, mushrooms. Some more mushrooms. And some more mushrooms. And let's go and test with this body. At first I'll sleep. Okay, at first let's sleep so that we can be saved. Like the progress is saved, so I don't have to start from the first thing. Alright, so let's just go and sleep for like a second. Alright, so progress is saved. Now we can go back. We can work on that thing. I think I'm in the board. Alright, let's just go over here and go inside. There are our footsteps still. And Gary is sitting there. Let's just take the blood out, extract it. I hope it will work out. Okay, we got the blood. It's like fully green. Let's take out the body. I mean the fat. Okay, it still remains at 3. You know what? There is a bad that we will try it again. All right, we will try it again. This time let's try to successfully do it. Right, let's try to be successful. It should load. Yeah, I mean this game it's not taking any much of my CPU. It's like taking I think 4%, 9%, something like that. So I think I will stream it at 180p. So stream it at 180p. This is like 720, I think. Right now it's 720. I'll stream it at 180. I'm not gonna go above 180. Alright, that's That's my limit. 180p is 1080p is my limit. So no me going. Let's extract fat, and fat extracted. It gives me 4. Yep, as I thought. That's better. So I have more space to put things in. I don't need to exterminate that person or something like that. That's minus 12. F. Let's just take this thing out. And let's go here. I'm going to do this into the corpse, and from now on we'll just take the fats. Right, we got some real certificate. Let's just go and sell it out. No, not this one, it's this one. Use. Let's go to the dead horse. This person never sleeps, so let's just go and trade. Alright, we have more than 3. And what we'll do is we'll get some seed from the farm, and then we'll close the stream. Alright, because next episode let's try farming a bit. Now let's get to every part of this mod. I mean like every part of this game. So if you didn't know, I am also a mod pack developer. I'm making a mod pack right now called Stella. So the link is in the description. It is early in the morning. That man is not up. And I can't steal his apples, so that's what's going on. Alright, let's go see the map. Map should tell you where everything's up. We have mapped out this area. This goes off over there, so no use going there. That guy needs cake, you know that? We ourselves don't know what he'll give though. Oh no, we have to bring him honey, and then he'll give us some sweet and tasty cake, cake. We also unlock some more recipes, so we should go and check it out first. I don't think I have what I need to like open this one pallet or something like that. Now, let's just see what we can build this. No, we don't need this. I have no stockpile. I like to keep this thing because I have a little bit too much of it. No, nothing over here is required. Let's go to technologies. I did work on that one. So now precious metals, I don't want that. Smithing habits, so I need 4 people right now. I have 9. So that is made by crafting rock things, which right now we don't have, so I can make 50 certified working hard. I'll just go here and I will put this thing here and over here. And 4, 5, 6, 7, okay. 6 ingots. Alright, that's perfectly fine.